Now you're good.
All right. Thank you so much, Amanda. Good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike Larson. As Amanda alluded, I worked for the Urban Ecology Center for 13 years. So I was very good friends with Tim Vargo and have been friends with Maggie and Amanda for a while. And was honored by this opportunity to come and talk to you all. It's nice to see so many familiar faces and names. I actually can't see your faces right now because you turned your cameras off. But it's good to see that you're here. I was at the Urban Ecology Center from 2008 to 2021. I was in visitor services for a long time, did a brief stint in community programs. And then I went to work at 16th Street Community Health Center in their environmental health department for working with Jamie Fershinger there, if you remember Jamie. She was the director of the environmental health department and invited me to come work with her down there, which was a really, really cool opportunity and taught me a lot about environmental health and the impacts of the places where we live, work, learn, and play on how they affect us. And they affect our mental health and our emotional health in very real and direct ways. As you all know, my experiences at the Urban Ecology Center really formed me very much in this idea of nature being a unifier for all people, and also something that's very, very important in the lives, especially of children, but of adults and people of all ages as well. And so as I was working at 16th Street, I loved working there, and it was neat. Kind of working in the community health field for a while, but my heart was kind of pulling me kind of back to the nature center space. So an opportunity opened up here at the Blue Lotus Center, which was kind of bridging the gap between these two things that matter so much to me, which is that kind of connection with nature and of getting people outside and outdoor recreation and all those things that I had picked up in my time at the Urban Ecology Center, and also this very real feeling I have of reaching out to the marginalized, which comes partially from my faith background, but also from my experiences at UEC and at 16th Street, working with populations that have a disadvantage in one way or another. And so the Blue Lotus Center, as we'll talk about, works specifically with people with disabilities and other significant life challenges. So it was kind of this perfect merger of the two things. And I showed the job posting to my wife, and she said, "Well, you got to go for it. That's perfect for you." And it has been a tremendous blessing to be here. I started in February, so I'm still less than a year in. I am still learning a lot. I bring with me my experiences from the UEC and other places, but there's just so much that to learn and to grow and to do that has been really a rewarding experience for me in that way as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit today about the work that the Blue Lotus Center does and kind of the niche that we fill in the nature center community here in southeastern Wisconsin, and also a little bit about what it's like working with people with disabilities and what it's like to connect them with nature, and why there are some very specific things that are special about that vocation. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. I've got a brief slideshow. And I promise I'll do my best not to make it boring. So here you go. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is not the Blue Lotus Center. This is a picture. Well, does anybody know? Can anybody tell me what it is? I'm sorry, I like to be a little bit more dynamic. So I know Amanda made you mute yourselves, but I'm going to ask questions. You're going to have to unmute to talk. Can anybody tell me what this is?
Yosemite.
Yeah, that's right. It's Yosemite. This is El Capitan, famous peak in Yosemite. This beautiful view. And this picture was taken by the renowned photographer, American landscape photographer, Ansel Adams. And Ansel Adams, when he was a small child, he would go to school, and his teachers would note that he had trouble paying attention. He had trouble sitting still. He couldn't focus. on his schoolwork. He was distracting to other students and was creating kind of problems in the classroom. So his parents, not really knowing what to do, that traditional classroom model wasn't fitting in for Ansel. What they would do is they would take him outside to a park every day before school, and just a nice wild space near their house, and they would just let him run around. And he would run around and get his energy out and experience joy being outside. And then they found that when he got to school, he was better able to focus, and he was better able to sit still and concentrate. And having that experience of getting outside in nature each morning really made a difference for his ability to be successful. Now, looking back on that now with the hindsight of many, many years of advances in our understanding of psychology and of disability, like we might look back and say, well, Ansel Adams, maybe he had ADHD, or maybe he was autistic. But at the time, he was just a problem, right? Like that's the way that they thought of students like that. They're just problems. And they were going to write him off if it wasn't for the clever intervention of his parents to get him like that kind of exposure to nature and that ability to kind of get out his energy and stuff, which then led him to be more successful at school. Now, Ansel Adams, who by his teacher's account and his school's account was a problem and was a failure, turned out to be this amazing nature photographer. And you can see his pictures in museums. You can buy calendars with Ansel Adams pictures. They're very, very popular, and they're beautiful ways that he captured national parks and other areas in the American landscape. And that experience of him growing up and having that kind of contact with nature and his parents taking him outside, like certainly influenced his future life as an adult. Now, I'm talking with people at the Urban Ecology Center, so I know I'm speaking a little bit to the choir here. That at the Urban Ecology Center, we know very, very distinctly that children with experiences in nature when they're very young develop the skills, the habits, the thought patterns of somebody who is environmentally conscious, who is environmentally responsible, who makes choices based on sustainability as an adult. There is research that bears this out. And it's what the model of the Urban Ecology Center is based on. This idea that if you give kids constant contact with nature as a child and exposure to adults, in this case, at the Urban Ecology Center, it's your educators, it's your scientists like Amanda, it's just anybody on the staff or other volunteers that are there that give them a sense of kind of model that behavior of environmental stewardship, the chances that they will grow up to they themselves being environmental stewards goes way up. What is excellent about that is that it's an opportunity then to do something amazing for kids and to give them these life experiences as children that's going to have a large impact later on down the road. What's not awesome about that is that not all children have that same level of access to nature. And the Urban Ecology Center knows that intuitively and works with kids in the city who maybe don't come from neighborhoods where their families have access to beautiful places like Yosemite National Park. Their parents don't have a safe place to go outside and play. My family and I volunteer at Kinship Community Health Center, Community Food Center. Used to be called River West Food Pantry. We've been volunteering for years. And one day I was volunteering there and I wore a shirt. And it was one of my UEC shirts. And one of the little girls that was there at the pantry saw it and said, oh, the Urban Ecology Center, I love that place. I go there with my school. So, of course, I struck up a conversation with her. And one of my kind of go-to questions that I ask kids, because it's usually get an easy answer from them, is, do you like playing outside? And so I asked that question to this little girl, and she paused for a moment, and then she spoke, and she said, well, yes, but my mom doesn't let me because it's not safe. This is right across the river from the Urban Ecology Center in River West. And her life experience of being outside is that it is not safe to be out there. And way too many children in our city, way too many children in our our country and in our world have that same experience. And I feel very blessed to have worked with the Urban Ecology Center, who works to solve that by creating safe and accessible nature places in neighborhoods where people can go. So I brought that ethic with me here to the Blue Lotus Center. Now, as we move on, this is the Blue Lotus Center. We are a 501c3 nonprofit near West Bend, Wisconsin. We have 64 acres of forest, meadow, and wetland that includes this beautiful 4-acre pond that you see here, where we can provide people, kids, adults, older adults, with outdoor experiences, opportunities to be outside, opportunities to connect with nature in a very real way. I can see this pond. I can look up and see this view, not quite so close, but see this view from my window here of our pond right out in front of our building. We also have this pavilion, which serves as kind of an education center here that was built. This building is kind of interesting because it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was this craze that happened of extreme home makeovers. And people really got into this extreme home makeover thing. Well, the city of West Bend held a contest, and the contest was for nonprofits to apply for one of these extreme makeovers. And the Blue Lotus Center won. So this building that you see, which houses about 50 people and has bathrooms and a full kitchen, and serves as an excellent space for the groups when they come here to get inside or stage from, was built in 3 weeks with one of these extreme makeover challenges. And I promise you, it's a very solid building. It's really nice. But it was just kind of a good opportunity that kind of came up. One more picture kind of the pond and of the site. Here's the Blue Lotus Center in winter. You can see that island that's out in the middle of our pond. You can kind of see on there's a structure on the island. That's a little cabin that our founder, Fred Bliffert, built with his daughters. It's a little cabin that's out there on the woods. And right now we have a visage, almost a scarecrow version of Fred sitting on the porch of that with a musical instrument, with a guitar, that the kids love to see when they come out. However, this is what the property looked like in the 1940s. So here is the Blue Lotus Center when the Bliffert family bought it. Many of you are probably familiar with Bliffert Lumber Company and hardware store in Milwaukee, several different stores kind of in the southeastern Wisconsin area. And the Bliffert family purchased this property in 1940. It was an old dairy farm. Here, what you see is the farmhouse. I want you to notice the lack of trees, very, very few trees here. But the Blifferts bought it as a kind of family retreat place, as a place to kind of get away, like a lake house, to get up north, go up north to West Bend, and kind of get away and have a nice place to go on the weekends and stuff. So here's what it looked like in 1940, and here's what that farmhouse looks like now. So this is actually where my offices are. There's a little extension off the right side of the farmhouse. That's where I'm sitting right now, here in this. You'll notice that we have a swimming pool here now, and I'll talk a little bit more about that and the advantages of the swimming pool in a bit. And then you'll see that we have some swings, including some adaptive swings for people as well. The gardens are very beautiful. We have a good mixture of native and cultivar plants in our gardens. You see the pale purple coneflower here in this picture, and some milkweed and other flowers here, because our founders are very much interested in that. Again, here is the farm. This is an old barn that we have, and you can see the farmhouse in the background. Again, this is from 1940, so you can kind of get a sense of what the property looked like. And here's what it looks like now. This is that same red barn that we have, as well as you can see the tremendous amount of trees that have grown up in that time period. So the farm was used by the Blifferts for many years, and then for a while it sat abandoned. Nobody came to the property and nothing happened. And then When the father died, he left the property to his children, to Fred and Susan Bliffert, who took it over, and the property was kind of a mess. The pool was full of mud. The grass had all grown, to be, 3 feet high. And there was a lot of disrepair, a lot of trash, like old farm implements, like farm tools and things like that lying around. Even old cars, tires, that kind of thing. And it was a bit of a mess for having been abandoned for so long. And when Fred and Susan inherited it, they didn't really feel necessarily like they needed this property for themselves. So they decided to do something courageous with it and to make it available for other people to come and enjoy. So they formed a partnership with the Milwaukee Center for Independence and started bringing people with disabilities out for summer camp opportunities at the farm. And it started kind of informal at first, but then they formed a 501c3 and called it the Blue Lotus Center. Now, you'll notice in this picture, the lily pads on the pond and the lotuses that are out there. I don't have any blue lotuses. Those are native to Egypt, to Northeast Africa, in that area, and are not as common here in Wisconsin. But the reason why they called it that is because a lotus flower traditionally, in many traditions, is symbolic in that in the morning they're closed very tightly like this, and then as the day goes on, they open up. And that was the exact thing, the exact experience that they wanted to have for the people that came here. They wanted to kind of see and to promote them opening up, because they believed, and I think that this resonates probably well with people here who are from the UEC or affiliated with the UEC, that that experience of going outside in nature does something to you. It means something, and it can help open you up to those possibilities. The reason why they chose blue lotus is because it's the rarest of the lotus flowers. And so it kind of has a little bit more of a special kind of edge to it. So that's how they came up with the name for the organization. So we went from serving the Milwaukee Center for Independence, so just having one thing, and that was 20 years ago. That's when we started. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. And now we partner with over 40 other organizations that serve people with disabilities and other significant life challenges. And there are 5 distinct populations that we work with. So we work with people with cognitive disabilities and physical disabilities. We work with people who are dealing with chronic and terminal illnesses. So we have a group, I should say this group right here, this is Golden Pearl. This is an adult day service group here in Washington County. We work with chronic and terminal illnesses. So Chicks for a Cause is an organization that works with people, primarily women, who are dealing with cancer in some way. And they're coming out in October and having a day out here in October. We work with people in memory care. So there's a series of assisted living facilities around here, and they bring their memory care units out here to get them out here as well. And there's just to share a story of just kind of the kind of experiences that people have out here. We had an elderly man here from the memory care facility and his wife, and he went out on our dock to go fishing, and you put a fishing pole in his hand, and he hadn't held a fishing pole in over 20 years. And he starts casting it, and our dock is a very, very easy dock to catch fish from. I should say that we only do catch and release, and we use barbless hooks in order to kind of save the fish. But the fish that come up, the bluegills that come up, they swarm the dock. Whenever you walk out on it, you'll see 20 bluegills right there waiting for the bait to be dropped in. This man sat out there and he started catching fish. And as he was catching them, he started telling a story. And he was telling fish stories, about times that he went fishing in the past. And his wife was behind him and started tearing up and started crying. And it turns out that this man was practically nonverbal. He never spoke. And she said, this is the most I've heard him speak in years. But there was something about that experience of fishing, of connecting outside with nature, that really made a huge difference to him. We also the other thing that's very important about that and connecting people with nature is that connecting with other people matters too. We have volunteers that come out. The groups that come out here often bring their own staff and volunteers out because that relationship with one another is an important part of the process. It's an important way for people to engage and kind of feel and have that experience outside is by connecting with one another. So we have a group of very loyal and committed volunteers that come out every time that we have a group. And I'm just going to show you one more picture just because I think this picture is really sweet. This woman is from one of the memory care units who came out to visit the Blue Lotus Center. We also work with people who are experiencing economic hardship. So we have a relationship with a group in Milwaukee called Community Projects for Seniors. And what they do is they provide resources and opportunities for people who are living in senior living facilities that are for those without the means to support themselves in that. So not everybody retires with a 401k and with lots of money. And so there are a number of places of housing units across the city for people who are retired, but who don't have the means to house themselves. And we bring out those groups. So there's a lot of them. So they come out every Tuesday and bring out those groups to have an experience outside in nature as well. We also work with, the final group that we work with is survivors of abuse and trauma. So we have a series that's going on this fall for women who have been abused or who have struggled with addiction, to come out for a retreat out here at the Blue Lotus Center that's led by a facilitator who's skilled and trained in trauma-informed yoga, and helps people through conversation, through yoga, through being outside, but also in that experience of being together and being with other people that share your pain, that have been through similar things, that have experienced traumatic loss, or otherwise have struggled. And there's something powerful about doing that together. So those are kind of the 5 distinct groups we work with. I mean, we kind of summarize that all with significant or profound life challenges. So the way that it works at the Blue Lotus Center is most days during the summer, and I mean every day, Monday, Sunday through Saturday during the summer, we partner with groups that come out and bring their beneficiaries, their clients out to the Blue Lotus Center. So like I said before, we have partnerships with over 40 organizations that serve the same groups of people that we do. And they come out and visit the Blue Lotus Center with their thing. So it's a private experience that these groups have in partnership with us. And we have groups from several different places. A lot of them do come from Washington and Ozaukee County. We're just kind of over the border from Ozaukee County. If you can imagine a map in your head of kind of where West Bend, Grafton, and Cedarburg are, that's a triangle. We're kind of in the middle of that triangle. So certainly from those communities, we bring in groups. We also bring in a lot of groups from Milwaukee. So a lot of groups do come up from Milwaukee to the Blue Lotus Center. And sometimes those groups, we have kids that are similar to the Urban Ecology Center, getting an experience of being outside at a nature place like this, out in the middle of a rural area, is a new experience for them, similar as it is to the Urban Ecology Center with coming to a park and being outside in the woods for some times. It's exciting and new and sometimes scary, but ultimately good. And then we work with groups as far away as Green Bay, come down, and down to like Kenosha. So it's a pretty decent stretch from kind of all over. And sometimes some of the group homes that come out here for adults with disabilities that come out here are coming from pretty far away as well. So they're kind of spread all throughout southeastern Wisconsin. And we have a variety of fun things for people to do. So here you can see these folks having a good time in one of our canoes. We have canoes and kayaks and pedal boats to go out onto our pond and explore on the pond. That's always really popular. I mentioned before that we have fishing. I should talk a little bit about the adaptability. So our dock is wheelchair accessible. And we do have the ability to get people with physical disabilities into a kayak or into a pedal boat from our docks, which is nice for them to be able to go out and kind of explore and have those experiences that they otherwise wouldn't be able to have somewhere else. We also have bikes. So here you can see one of our tandem tricycles that we use. And it's for, again, for people with disabilities who maybe don't have much experience riding a bike, can get on with a friend and pedal around and get to kind of enjoy that experience of biking as well. We also have traditional bikes, but we have two of these adaptable tricycles that are very, very popular. Here's a picture of our pedal boats. So this is a real nice way for people to get out and see the pond. It's very, like, people who have balance issues. So if you have a physical disability or even just mobility restrictions in your life, and like balancing in a kayak or a canoe doesn't sound good to you, these pedal boats are very stable, very easy to get into. You can pedal or you can just ride and enjoy the pond, and it's a neat way to experience that for people who might have difficulty experiencing it in other ways. And then, as I mentioned before, here's our dock where folks can go fishing. One of the really cool things that we have here is we have this adaptable fishing pole mechanism, and it's homemade. It's totally DIY, but it's this this box that's kind of constructed out of wood, and inside the box is a electric screwdriver, and the tip of the electric screwdriver comes out, and it has a bit on it that fits perfectly into a place where a fishing pole can rest, that fits into the handle of the fishing pole. And then there is a lever that comes up from the box, and there's a golf ball on top of that lever, and the golf ball is pretty easy to manipulate, and if you move the golf ball, it turns on the drill, which then reels in the fishing line because of the way it's hooked up to the fishing pole. So you can imagine a person with cerebral palsy or who otherwise maybe lacks the finger dexterity to be able to use a traditional fishing pole. This thing can be mounted on a wheelchair, and then you can just kind of use your hand to shift the golf ball, and then it reels in a fish. So a lot of the people that come out here, like, they're catching a fish for the first time in their lives. Like, they've never been able to experience that because we have that kind of adaptive ability for people to enjoy it. We also have recreation. So here's our badminton net that we have set up. We have various lawn sports activities like ladder golf, and we have a Connect Four, and we have cornhole, or kind of the bag toss game. And a variety of things like that for people to use and experience, and tetherball. And these are very fun for the kids especially, but as you can see, the adults too, to come out and enjoy and be able to enjoy when they're out here. We do some activities. So here we are with a parachute, playing parachute with a group that's out here, which is a lot of fun. This is actually on one of our Blue Lotus days. So most of the summer, what we're doing is we filled all of the days with the groups that come out, but occasionally we will do these Blue Lotus days, which are days where families with kids with disabilities, and by kids I mean they can be young children, but they can also be adult children with disabilities, can come out and have a day out here as a family. It's one thing to be able to interact with people when they're with their day service groups, but it's another thing to have families involved. So we have a series of about a half dozen of these a year where we invite parents and their kids to come out and enjoy all the activities that the Blue Lotus Center offers as a family. So this is from one of our Blue Lotus days. We have 6 of them that are for families, and then we have 2 of them that are special. One is for seniors, so it's for grandparents to come out, or for people to go pick up their loved ones from assisted living facilities and bring them out here. And then we also have another one that's specifically for caregivers. So we know intuitively that being a caregiver for a person with a disability, or for children with disabilities, is itself a significant role. It's like a significant task that they carry with them, and that they also sometimes need a break and sometimes need to come out and have a date night and go paddling together on the pond, or enjoy a bonfire and have some s'mores, or just go for a hike and be outside in nature. And so we have that as well. This is a picture of our sound garden. Some people call it a music garden, but I'm from the 90s, so I call it a sound garden. And it has a number of instruments. This is largely due to our influence of our founders. So Fred Bliffert, if any of you know him at all, he is a musician, and he was in a few bands, Freddie and the Freeloaders, Freddie and the Blifftones, and actually spent some time out in LA in the music scene out there. It has all these crazy stories about Linda Ronstadt and these other people that he knew when he was out in LA. But so that musical part of what we do is back. Our big fundraiser for the year, instead of doing a gala, we do a concert, and Fred invites his friends to come out and perform. So building the sound garden here was an important kind of part of that experience, and it's a nice way for our guests to get to enjoy it, and to kind of have these instruments there for people to play. It's a neat way for them to interact kind of with the landscape. We also work with a lot of groups with people who are artistic. And one of the things that we know about autism is that it's important for people to have a chance to take a break sometimes, that sometimes it can be a little bit overstimulating, especially if you're in a new place. It can get to be kind of loud and fun near the pond. And so we have a space here. This is an overview, and it's not a very clear picture, but this is an overview of a labyrinth that we have. This is modeled after the labyrinth in Chartres Cathedral, and is a space that's kind of removed a little bit, and you can go out there and go for a walk and explore the labyrinth. Now, if you've never used a labyrinth before, labyrinths are not the same as a maze. A maze is a puzzle that you have to solve, and it can be fun, but it can also be frustrating. Labyrinths are not. Labyrinths are one direction, so there's no choices in terms of which way you turn. You always go the same direction. But as you walk the course of this path, and if you walk this entire path, it's a quarter mile. It's pretty significant how far you walk. You walk the entire path and you get into the center. And the whole point of it is the journey. It's not about the destination. It's not about solving a puzzle. It's about a journey. And so people will use labyrinths to meditate. They will use labyrinths to pray, or sometimes to just be outside in solitude and quiet. And it's important to have spaces like this here at the Blue Lotus Center where people can get away if they need to. The labyrinth is very beautiful. It's hard to see in this picture, but it's the edges of the labyrinth are wildflowers that are growing. So as you walk through it, you can kind of enjoy the asters and the goldenrods and the prairie sunflowers and things that are growing there, and kind of make your way towards the center of the labyrinth. In addition to the groups that we work with, we also host a series throughout the year, in the spring, fall, and winter especially, of what we call our self-care Sundays. So self-care Sundays are retreats or experiences that people can come out to the Blue Lotus Center, and it can be open to anybody. We encourage the practitioners. So what we do is we partner with people who are in the wellness community, who maybe they lead yoga, like you see in this group, but we also have had art therapy things out here. We've had craft making things. We've had nature bathing, which I don't know if you're familiar with nature bathing, but the first time I heard about it, I kind of raised an eyebrow, because I was imagining people walking around without clothes on in our forests, and I thought, I don't know, forest bathing. I'm sorry, forest bathing is what it's called, but it's actually an ancient Japanese tradition, and it's about just kind of being present in nature and experiencing nature in a beautiful way. So we've had that sort of thing out here too. And these are opportunities. This is one of the rare things that we have that are open to the public, that anybody can sign up for and come out for an experience like that at the Blue Lotus Center as well. And then we also have volunteers. So we host a couple of work days in the spring and the fall, and we do a bunch of volunteering opportunities where groups can come out. This is a group from one of the churches here up in Washington County. to came out and to do some work here at the Blue Lotus Center. So they get out and they help us to, in the spring, help to get the property ready for all the groups that come out, and then in the fall to kind of clean it up and rake leaves and put things away. And then of course we have our individual volunteers that come out and work with the groups that kind of help people fish. And the fishing is so easy. Like you can catch a fish in 2 minutes that we'll frequently limit it to 4 people fishing on the dock at a time, because that's all the dock can really hold. And a volunteer will help them to catch the fish and then get the fish off the hook and put some more bait on. We usually use corn or hot dogs, whichever we have available. And as we're kind of running through that, the volunteers just nonstop, like running back and forth, because their kids are constantly catching fish and pulling them off. So it's kind of a fun process for our volunteers, and our volunteers get just as much out of the experience as the people that come out, in terms of interacting people, connecting with people, and then also getting to be outside and enjoying the natural area. So as many of you are volunteers, you know the value of doing that. And it's a neat thing to be able to have and to see out here. And then we also have a lot of fun. So this is from one of our kind of parties. You can see down in the lower left-hand corner, that's Fred and his band playing here some music for one of our events. And you see lots of people kind of enjoying the land. So we do have a few kind of days that are open to the public. Excuse me a second, my phone is ringing, my office phone. Let me turn that off. Okay, how embarrassing. I'm sorry, I should have turned that off before we started. But what you can see here is people just kind of enjoying this thing in one of our open house days. So the good news is, if you're looking at this and you're like, oh, wow, that sounds cool, I'd really love to see that place, we're having an open house on October 8th. So we are participating in something called the Wonders of Wa, which is Washington County's kind of version of the Treasures of Oz, if you're familiar with that, in Ozaukee County. It's through the same organization, Washington Ozaukee County Land Trust, and we're participating in that with a number of other organizations here in Washington County. So on Sunday, October 8th, from 3 to 6 p.m., we're having a bonfire. And so if you love a good fall bonfire, you are more than welcome to come out. It's free and it's open to the public, and it's a neat way to come kind of see the space in one of the very, very few days of the year that we're actually open to the public. Because most of the days of the year, it really is kind of restricted to the private groups that come out. Okay, and then this is just my contact information. So if you have any other follow-up questions or something, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'm not done yet. This is just kind of going